Hello and welcome to my channel where we talk about tips and tricks for teaching elementary music. Okay, here's today's video. So today I thought I'd talk about classroom management. I've already done a couple of videos on my rules, consequences, and rewards, and routines and procedures, and I will link them in the description box below in case you want to go in and see them a little bit more fully explained. I will give a brief overview of those things in this video, but the majority of this video is focused on classroom management. Now at this point you might be asking, wait a minute, rules, consequences, rewards, routines, and procedures, isn't that all part of classroom management? Yes, routines and procedures, rules, consequences, and rewards, they are part of classroom management, but those are things that you have to think about and come up with before the first day you ever teach those students, so that they become that foundation that you're building the rest of your behavior management plan on top of. So here you can see my rules. I'm not going to explain all of them. They're pretty self-explanatory. You probably only want to have anywhere from 3 to 5 rules in your classroom, but make them broad enough that they can cover all the little things that might crop up. Say, for example, my rule number 4 that says, I will respect my classmates and the teacher. That can cover a variety of things. It can be, are they talking too much while I'm talking, which of course goes back to my rule number 1. It could be, are they looking funny at the student? Are they like not passing out? Are they skipping the student if they're passing something out? Little things like that. Disrespect comes in many forms. So you want to make it a broad enough rule that it can cover a lot of things. So when you have rules, you have to have consequences. So you have to think about, okay, these are the rules. Now, how do I want to enforce the rules? So these are the consequences that I came up with. Pretty generic consequences. I think most classroom teachers have these, except with the exception of possibly the, I will lose my instrument. That probably is not on a classroom teacher's list. So once you've explained these rules and consequences to the students, and you need to have them posted, okay? If they're not posted, then the students can claim, oh, I forgot, how am I supposed to remember? I have so many teachers and whatever. This way, they're always there. You can refer back to it. You can even, if there's a day when everybody's just like running their mouth too much while you're teaching, you can say, hey, my friend in chair number 5, can you read out loud to the class rule number 1 for everybody to hear again? Because we need to review that. So once you've gone over the rules and consequences, you do have to have a reward system. So whatever reward system works for you, great, fine. This is the one that I use. I use a bar graph and I give points throughout my class time. And my points go along with the stars that I have. And if everybody keeps a star, it's 1 point, because it means they followed all the rules. And then the whole class, if they all kept it, it's 5 more points. And I might give extra points along the way. They did a really great job, I don't know, on the rhythm exercises or something. So I go over there, let's say they ended up getting, I don't know, 28 points at the end of their class time. I'll put it on the reward chart. And once they get to 200 points, they get to spin the wheel, which is just a digital wheel that I found. I think it's on a place called Wheel of Names, maybe. And I just made a digital wheel that has like song, dance, body percussion, some other things in there. These are extra music activities. That's going to be their reward the next week. I used to give tangible rewards like erasers, pencils, and it worked for a while. Really well, except I would sometimes forget that I ran out. So it'd be the end of the class time and, oh, they want a reward and I didn't have it, and I'd have to run to the store that afternoon or make them wait a whole week or whatever. It just became a real problem. And then once the lockdowns happened with COVID and we were virtual, you couldn't do tangible rewards anyway. So I came up with these types of rewards and it works really well. So that's my reward system. Okay. I'm not going to go into routines and procedures right now because I did make a whole video about my specific routines and procedures. What I want to say on this though, you've got to have this framework in place, this foundation. You have to have your rules, consequences, and rewards so that the students know what their behavior expectations are in the classroom. And you need to give them routines and procedures. So if every time you're doing rhythm reading with rhythm note cards, if you want them to come sit on the carpet, which is what I do, if you want them to come sit on the carpet so that they can see the rhythm patterns better and you can hear them and all that, and they can be more focused, then that would be a routine you would create for that. If you want them to sit in their chair to play instruments or go to a station to play instruments or whatever the routine and procedure that you have, you just need to establish that. And that starts the first week. The first time that you tell them, okay, we're gonna play rhythm sticks, take them out of your basket and put them on your shoulder. This is rest position for rhythm sticks. That's a routine, a procedure. And you're gonna have to establish that over and over again. All these routines and procedures, you're gonna have to say them all the time. I am constantly saying during dancing, for example, okay, walk to a dancing spot. And I say the word walk every time, and I will even say walk, 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 walk in rhythm after it to really get that in their brain, because there's always some child that is going to want to run because maybe dancing is their favorite thing, or they just have a lot of energy that day. So if you want to know more about my specific routines and procedures, I encourage you to go to the description box and check out that video. So you've got your rules, consequences, and rewards. You've got your routines and your procedures. You've got that nice framework going on. You've created an engaging lesson and you're ready to go. So now it's like a train ride, if you could imagine that. You want to keep the train moving. So one of the ways to keep the train moving is to make sure that you have all of your stuff ready to go. I mean, all of your lyrics, all of your notated things, all of your actual audio files. If there's any video files, have it all ready to go, queued up. So there's hardly any delay, but like a couple seconds for whatever it takes for your internet connection to switch over to that new thing. Now, if you are old school and you like things like charts, or you want them to have the books in their hands, that's fine if that's the way you want to go. But a good idea, especially if you were going to give them books, is maybe you take the time to turn to page 24 and put just a little bookmark in each one of the books for page 24, so that when that class comes in, boom, it's right there. This is why I prefer digital, because you don't have to deal with that. Plus with digital, you can track for them. But however you want to go, make sure that you have everything queued up. If you're using CDs, make sure you have that CD out. Make sure it's in the CD player. Make sure it's already queued up to track 10 or whatever track it needs to be on, so that all you have to do is hit play, okay? So let me just show you what I do for mine. Is I love Google Slides. I do all of mine in Google Slides. And I'm going to show you here what it looks like. And I'm actually going to step out of the camera work and I'll do some voiceover work over top of it so that you can hear more about what I do with these Google Slide presentations. Okay, so I like to do all of my lessons in Google Slides, and I embed everything. I embed videos, I embed links to new Google Slide presentations or other things. I also put the sound files in. I have all the lyrics to the songs, all of those things. So I'm just going to run through a kindergarten one that I did last year. So you can see my virtual classroom, Welcome to Kindergarten Music, and my name's up there. And this is what the students see when they walk in the room. And we're finding the steady beat while that happens. And then there's the I can statements, because my district's really big into that. And you can see the date is up there for the week that happened. And then the next thing we do is we sing a known song. So this is one they had done for a while. It's a variation on the alphabet song. So that's why I just have the alphabet up there. So you can go, you can have a picture at your audio file if you want, or you can just leave it with the standard one that looks like this. So in order to make a picture, you would just right click on that actual, right click. And if you go down here to replace image, you can see where you can upload a picture from your computer or search the web or Drive in order to change a picture on that. Another thing, if you're not aware of this, is you can right click again, and that opens up your format options over here. Okay, and if it doesn't open it up automatically, you want to open it here. And over here, if you click on audio playback, if your song is more than one slide long, you need to click on this so that it's not clicked, the stop on slide change. If it's only one slide long, like this song is, you can leave it clicked, it doesn't matter. But when you unclick this and you have a slide, a song that is like 4, 5, 6, however many slides it is, it will continue to play throughout it. The music will continue to play even when you click to the next slide. All right, so that's that particular thing. And then this is a video that I found on YouTube that my students really like to do as a dance song. So I just embed it right there. And here's an example of a linked slide. So this is linked to another presentation in my drive. So this is another presentation that I put into my drive. This happens to be an actual presentation that comes with, I believe it's Making Music Interactive Music. But if you get into it, you can see the words there and then the embedded song. And then here is on the next slide, whoops. On the next slide is a rhythm. We're going to actually play instruments on this. Okay, A section, B section. And I noticed I didn't put any rhythms pictures up here because in the moment I may decide I want sticks here, maracas here. You can make your choice in the moment depending on what you want to use. And then there's the embedded song file to play while the students are looking at this pattern, these patterns for their playing piece. And then another video that I wanted to show just to kind of help them to know, in this case it was about the string instrument. It's the same video that I found on YouTube, but this is one thing that you can do with video. If you go to video playback, I don't know if you can see that this doesn't start until 1:41, okay? Because I only wanted to play, for this particular week, the string family. And there's a way to format that over here. You could probably see it now coming up on the bottom right-hand corner. You can tell it when to start and you can tell it when to end. Because this particular video has 20 different musical instruments and I wanted to only do them by families. So the string family is 1 week, woodwind family is another week, etc. And the reason that I have both of those up here right now is because maybe some classes didn't get to do the string family the week before, so I would do that, and maybe another class did already do string family, so I have the next one ready to go just in case. So that's how I set up my lesson plans. You can see that if you are set up in this fashion, whatever the scenario is, whatever you want to do, if you're set up where you can just go click to the next one, turn it on, and the only thing you have to wait for is for the internet connection or the audio file to open up and play, then it makes for a more streamlined lesson, and it will cut down on a lot of negative student behaviors. So you've got everything ready to go. Here comes the class, and this is what I'm talking about. It's like being on a train. You want the train to keep going for the whole 45-minute class. That's how long mine are. Maybe yours are 30, maybe yours are longer. However long your class is, you want the train to go for the whole 45 minutes. Now, you might be saying, I don't know how to do that. Well, I'm going to tell you. When I say it needs to keep going for the whole 45 minutes, you are going to take little breaks in between each activity. And when I say little breaks, it could be as little as 10 seconds. It could be as much as 30 seconds. It's not going to be 2 minutes here and there between each activity because you've already got everything ready to go. In my case, I'm waiting for that internet connection to change to the next song. Or I'm waiting for my students to do the routine or procedure to get to the next activity. So if they were sitting on the carpet, like you can see in my classroom here, or maybe they were sitting in their chair and they need to go to the carpet, or maybe they were dancing and they need to go back to their chair, or maybe they need to put their instrument away or get their instrument out. So there are transitions that are going to happen between your activities, but this is where routines and procedures will help you out. The more you reinforce those routines and procedures while you're doing them, the more the students will get it, and it will become a smoother ride as you go along on this train ride. I encourage you to do the same activities in order each week. That's how I structure my lessons. For example, if you always do the steady beat when you come in the room, then the kids know this is our procedure when we come in the room, is to find the steady beat, whatever it is, okay? If you do your dance song after your singing song, then they know that's coming and they know what the next routine and procedure is. If you're constantly flipping around every week, okay, I want to start with a dance this week, next week I'll start with singing, the week after that I'll start with a listening piece, and the week after that we're going to start with instruments. First of all, you might get confused, right? Secondly, the students will be confused and their routines and procedures won't be as smooth, okay? So if you could do the same structure all the time, that would be wonderful. The thing that helps me out is I use a visual schedule, and it shows the order of activities. I'm going to show it to you here on the screen. It shows the order of activities that we're going to do in class, and the students can see, and it takes away the questioning. Are we going to do this today? You can refer to the schedule, but it also helps you to know, okay, what's next, what's next, what's next? And any visitor, observer to your classroom can see what the next activity is. It also looks really good to principals when they look at that and they see that you have like 7 pictures up there. Yeah. You do more than just singing along a song. We're not just sitting in there singing songs all day long. We do a lot of other things. So just keep that in mind. So back to that image of a train. Expect to only get through 80% of the lesson without interruption. I'm not saying that you're only going to be able to teach 80% of your lesson. I'm saying expect to have only 80% of your lesson uninterrupted. And the only way that's going to happen, and that's actually really good, if you can have 80% of your lesson uninterrupted, that's amazing. That's only going to happen if everything's ready to go. Okay? So you can see what I'm talking about when you look again at the visual schedule, how many activities we're going through. If you're taking a minute and a half, 2 minutes in between every activity to switch over this thing on the smartboard or this thing on books or this thing on a CD or however you're doing, it can be really, really, really laggy in between, and it just leaves all sorts of room for problems, okay? So let's talk about the type of interruptions you could expect first. Your most likely interruptions are going to be bathroom, especially in elementary music, especially in kindergarten and first grade. Bathroom, I gotta go to the bathroom, okay? Or not following directions, you know, they forgot, they couldn't find their instrument, or they're playing with their instrument too soon, or they're running around the room instead of going and standing in a dancing spot. These are the behaviors that you're going to have the most problem with, and I just call these just like normal kid behaviors. They're not bad behaviors, they're just kids being kids. And oh gee, I need to tie my shoe, and it, you know, it's probably been untied for an hour before they even came to your room, but all of a sudden in the middle of a dance they need to stop and tie their shoe, and they decide to stop in the middle of everybody dancing and not realizing that they could get kicked in the head because other people don't pay attention. Little things like these that are going to happen every single class period, okay? The more you teach and the more you're prepared for these things, and the more you come up with your own routine and procedure about how to deal with that, then you will be able to deal with those things and keep the train moving at the same time. For example, I got to go to the bathroom will happen in the middle of singing. You're up there singing a song and tracking on the smartboard, and somebody raises their hand and you're like, yes. And they're like, I got to go to the bathroom. And you're like, go ahead. But the song is still going and you're still singing the song. Little things like that. okay? Somebody needing a shoe tie, you just say, hey, the dance is going on, just come on off the carpet and come over here, and either tie the shoe for them. I don't tie shoes for students anymore. It's not fun for me to go up and down like that at my age. So I usually will say, is there another student that can tie the shoe for the child? So those are the normal interruptions that you're going to have, okay? So that train idea, just keep the train moving as much as you can. If you do end up getting a log in the middle of the track that you got to take care of because, somebody started crying and somebody, fell down and hurt themselves and you need to call the nurse or something like that, you just stop the music, you send everybody back to their chair, and you allow the kids to talk while you're calling the nurse. And my students know they can talk in between all these activities while we're waiting for the internet to reconnect to the next thing, while we're moving from our chairs to the floor. They can talk. They just don't need to be talking loud, and they need to be ready to focus and stop talking when I start talking and teaching and we're doing the next thing. And that's a learned behavior. It takes a while for them to get that. This is my 9th year at this school that I'm at. And so I've taught all of these students K through 5 and their brothers and sisters and all of that. So it's just the newer kids that I have to kind of bring on board with all my routines and procedures. But the other kids know them, and they are really good, especially the older ones, of telling kids, no, you're supposed to do it this way. This is where rhythm sticks go. So that's a fun thing with being in elementary music and teaching multiple grades. Okay, so all those normal kid behaviors, somebody's crying, somebody threw up, somebody got hurt, somebody needs to go to the bathroom, somebody's not paying attention, focusing, all of those normal kid behaviors. Like I said, a lot of them, you can keep the train moving. The ones that you can't, like when you have to go call the nurse or, take care of cleaning something up or whatever, will stop the train, but allow the students to go back to their seat and give them permission to just talk about whatever they want to talk about to their friends, okay? And usually once that happens, once the scenario where you're done with the phone call or you are done, helping the child get over what they're crying over or whatever the scenario is, most of the time the students will be ready to be, okay, we're ready to get back on the train and go on to the next activity. That's what you're going to see the majority of the time that you're teaching, hopefully. Now, you could be in a scenario where you are breaking up fights every day. I was at one school where towards the end of my time there, before I put my transfer card in, I was breaking up multiple fights a day. And that was a challenging school, and it was a hard thing for me to do, which is why I put my transfer card in. But you still have to, as the teacher, be prepared for these things to happen. Even if you're in a fantastic school that you've heard that has no fights and suspensions are very rare and all these sorts of things, be prepared, know what you plan to do, have a plan for what you will do in the event that a fight breaks out in your classroom. So in those scenarios, if you think of the elementary music room as a pot of boiling water, because we're constantly moving, there's music going, so you're not going to have your students sitting still and concentrating and focusing as they're doing independent work in the classroom on, say, a math worksheet. No, they are constantly going to be moving, using their voices, their bodies, and the music, of course, is stimulating and all of that. So it's like a boiling pot of water, which is necessary, but you need to make sure it's not going to boil over. Well, when the fights or the bullying, threats, intimidation, any of those, throwing furniture, any of those things happen, that's when all the water is starting to spurt out of that pot. And you've got a real mess on your hands that you've got to deal with. So if you don't have a plan beforehand of how to deal with that, you're going to be in shock. And you're going to freeze up, And who knows what's going to happen at that point. Now, I will tell you, even once you get a plan in place, you're still going to have some shock when it happens, especially if it's not a daily event where you are, okay? If it's a daily event, unfortunately, you'll be getting used to it and you will, figure those things out and you'll be like, okay, here's another one. But if it's something that doesn't occur very much, you will still have, that moment of what's going on? Why are they doing that? But you still have to intervene, okay? So the school that I'm at right now is a very good school as far as student behavior is concerned. There really aren't fights very often, but I did have a fight last year that two students were in that I had to intervene in. And that was my first fight at this school. That was year 8 at this school. So it had been 8 years since I had been breaking up fights. So I did have like a moment of like, what's going on? I've never seen this at this school before. What's happening? But then my memory of what I'm supposed to be doing kicked in. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to talk to people at your school, talk to your administration if need be, talk to your grade chairs, talk to somebody in your building who's been there to find out, okay, how often do fights happen in this building? So I kind of have like a knowledge of what the possibilities are. And what are the expectations of me as a teacher? What are the strategies that are used as a school and all that? Hopefully your school will have, some plans in place. But if it's a school that maybe doesn't have fights that often, maybe every teacher's kind of fending for themselves because it's like, oh, well, I haven't seen a fight in 6 years, so, I don't know what to do. So just try to get some information from your school and see what their, thoughts or whatever are on first, okay? But if for some reason you can't get any straight information from them, I'm going to tell you what happened to me last year and what I did, and I'll also tell you a time when I was breaking up fights every day and something that happened to me, so that you can kind of see some different scenarios of what may or may not work. Now, I'm going to tell you, do not put yourself in jeopardy. But if you're the only adult in the room and 2 kids are flying fists back and forth at each other, you have to intervene in some way, shape, or form. You have to, okay? You just can't let them keep going at it, because not only will they keep getting hurt, but they could actually hurt other students that are around them as well. You have to intervene. You are the responsible adult in the room, okay? So this last year, the entire grade level was in bus duty in the room. And for some reason, I was the only teacher in the room at that moment with, I don't know, it was maybe 45, 50 kids. Anyway, I was looking this direction and I saw 2 students here go, fight! And they got up and started running that direction. At which point I turned around and looked, and this student had another student on the floor, and the student who was the aggressor was pummeling the student that was on the floor. Well, unfortunately, even though my first instinct was to go there immediately, this child that was running across, and I knew exactly what he wanted to do, go help his friend and fight the other kid, I had to step in front of him first, right? And I just kind of stopped his momentum by putting my hand just there. And he was pushing, he wanted to go, and I had to say his name 2 or 3 times. I said, I need you to go in the hallway. I just saw another teacher. Go get Mr. So-and-so, right? So he finally clicked out of it and he ran out to go get the other teacher. At that point, I was able to turn and focus on this, and I'm yelling, this is before I can even get to the student, I'm yelling stop in a very firm voice. And as I get to the student, I put my hand on the student's arm, not grabbed, just touched, like just trying to be like, I'm here, stop. And I said, stop again. And fortunately, this student, that was enough to break him out of it. And now that he stopped and the child that was underneath scrambled away. And by this time there was another adult in the room and we were able to take care of the scenario. Okay. So that is how I handled that fight. Notice, at no point was I going to put myself in between those children, okay? And I did not grab that child. I simply put my hand on their shoulder. Years ago, when I was at a school where I was breaking up multiple fights a day, we were told that our procedure for breaking up those fights, in order to make them stop, if talking to them verbally and saying stop, knock it off, leave each other alone, get to separate corners in firm voices, if that wasn't working, to come up behind the most aggressive of the two, right? Because there's always one that if you can break them, the other one will stop momentarily, even if both of them are fighting. So the other one will stop momentarily enough for you to be able to say, walk away, or whatever. So we were told to come up behind them, right? And wrap our arms around, this part of their body, right? Just to, it's not like so hard that you're like, confining them, but just that's enough to kind of break them out of that moment and bring their arms down and stop the fighting. So I did that multiple times, but one time that I did it, the student that I was holding on to was just wanting to just keep going. So he was surging forward. So I put a little bit more of my weight into pulling him back, enough so that it kind of broke him out of the surge forward, but it was too much weight and I ended up landing on my behind, okay? So not an ideal scenario there, but at no point did I put myself in between any of the students. If you don't have a good plan or a scenario for how to break up a fight, or don't have any clear direction and don't feel comfortable doing either one of the things that I mentioned doing, a good resource in your building is your special education teachers, okay? They have been trained, especially students who work with, or especially the teachers who work with students who have autism, or the teachers who work with students with emotional disabilities and behavioral disabilities. They have been trained in how to physically intervene when students need to be helped in becoming safe for themselves and safe for other students, okay? So that would be a great resource, is to talk to those people. Bottom line, if you have a fight break out in your room, or somebody's throwing furniture or cussing you out at the top of their lungs and not calming down, a major disturbance, a major negative behavior happening in your classroom, you are going to have to stop that train. And depending on how much time you have left in the class time, once everything's resolved and any people have been called in to help if need be, or students have been sent out if need be, you may not be able to get back to that lesson. It either may be the end of class time, or it could be a scenario where you just say, you know what, we're gonna sit down and I'm gonna read you a storybook, because it's a really calming activity. We've got 10 minutes left. I got a couple good storybooks here. Let's just calm down for the rest of the class time, okay? But if you keep your students engaged on that train that we talked about earlier, and you keep it moving and everything's ready to go, rules, consequences, rewards are in place, routines and procedures are in place, your audio files, visual files, all of that's in place and ready to go, students know what they're doing, then most of the time you can prevent any of those extreme scenarios from even starting in your classroom, because they start when the kids are bored and they're picking on each other and they're not happy about something, right? So remember how music is really fun, and elementary music can be super fun. So you want to get these kids engaged and moving. All right, that's all that I have to say about classroom management in the elementary music classroom. I hope that you got some good ideas from this, and I hope that you'll remember to subscribe. Have a wonderful day.